Hello, Palladium fans. I'm here with Kevin, and today we're doing another in our game designer series. And this one is important to Kevin. I'm going to let him introduce the topic, but it's one that he was like, "This is the one I want to do, and this is important for people to hear." So I'm going to let Kevin introduce today's topic.
Yeah, I don't know if it's follow your dreams, dare to imagine, how to get started as a game designer. But this is true to anyone about any kind of creative venture, whether it's writing or art or game design or acting or music. Just follow your dreams. I was on a panel with Larry Elmore a number of years ago, and he was talking about himself and me and Keith Parkinson, who had recently passed. And he was saying how for him and for me and Keith, being creative was just, it was part of us and it couldn't be contained. It was just this passion that we had to do. And it was wonderful that hundreds of thousands or millions of people enjoyed our work. But even if no one enjoyed it, even if it wasn't getting published, we would still be writing, drawing, painting, because it's in us. It's just that creative need is just there, and it's screaming to come out, and we have to unleash it or it drives us crazy. I think he actually referred to it as is like the love of your life, and she wants to be with you, and so why aren't you allowing her to do it? You want her to be with you. You want her to share your life, and it's just so true. And you know, we talk about game design, we talk about history, and I think a lot of times, because I like reading biographies and listening to biographical interviews and that kind of thing. I've read a million books on Walt Disney, one of my inspirations, and George Lucas and a bunch of other folks. And it's always fun and it's always great. And a lot of times you get that perspective of the guy was a genius, a visionary, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. None of them, not them, not me, not you, none of them woke up one day and said, "Hey, I'm a flipping genius and I need to do X."
Nope. Like read how Star Wars actually came to be. The whole reason that Lucas has the rights to all of the merchandising is because no one at the studio even believed in his film, and so he's like, "Well, I'll take this, in lieu of that." Like, he was scrambling to put that first movie together at the detriment of his health and his finances and his relationships because he was so passionate about it.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. And I'm really glad you kind of put that fine point on it, JM, because that's something I was going to get to. And since you mentioned it, I want to jump on it now. Is George didn't know, Beethoven didn't know. We don't, when you got this creative spirit inside of you, and you just need, all you know is you need to unleash it. And you don't know it's going to be a success. You don't know if it's going to be a failure. You don't know how to even do it. You're learning. I learned everything about Palladium, about publishing, by the seat of my pants, by trial and error. And there's nothing wrong with trial and error. And as long as you learn from the errors, you learn from your mistakes, you figure out, what did I do wrong? How can I do it better next time? And even if it's a smash hit, it's like, okay, that's great, but man, it was such an ordeal, or this was a problem, or that was a problem. How can I make it easier, better? All of that. But it starts with, one, letting that creative energy loose. Embrace it. Two, take the risk. Do it, especially if you really don't care if it's a big success or not. Just, you feel like you got to do it in your bones, because that means you need to unleash that magic inside of you. It's a gift. I don't care where you want to think of, whether it's genetic, whether it's from God, whatever, from the cosmos, the zeitgeist. It's there. unleash it. Don't be afraid. And it's scary. And that's the other thing. I don't see a lot of people talking about, gee, I was scared shitless to do this.
Oh,
you will be.
Yeah.
Because it's scary, and you're putting your heart and soul on display for other people and hoping that they won't go, wow, what a loser. This is garbage.
Yep. So,
and even if they say, what a loser, this is garbage, you know what? How many people actually ever write and publish or a novel or a comic book or a game or a piece of music and put themselves out there? How many people can accomplish that? Just doing that alone, you should be proud of yourself, whether it takes off or not.
So going back to one of the things you said is, and this has stuck with me forever, a lot of people give Stephen King crap for his endings. And he said, he was like, listen, I write books for exactly two people, myself and my wife. I write the endings I like to see. The fact that anyone else reads them and likes them is essentially gravy, because that's when I run Jackals, my players at my table are like, this game's awesome because it's the way I like to run games. I wrote Jackals for the people at my table. The fact that Osprey liked it and people like it, and that's gravy. I wrote it for the people that I loved in a way that they were going to enjoy doing it. A guy that we both know, Brandon, we were just talking about him beforehand. His love letter to Savage Worlds is Starbreaker. The majority of that art he purchased for his home game because he was just so passionate about it. And then he was like, well, I'm going to turn this into a setting. All his goal was initially just to say, hey, that money that I put in it to my campaign over there, it'd be kind of cool if I recoup it. But there are so many avenues now for people to turn what they love and what they're passionate about into maybe not a full blown career, but even maybe not even a side hustle, but maybe just because you want to put things out. But there are ways to turn them into side hustles and full blown careers. Palladium Books was one of the first companies. I mean, we had Dragon Magazine, but you guys had the Rifter pretty soon into Palladium's, overall history. And you were encouraging people to say, hey, if you're out there playing our games, we want to see it. We want others to see it. And now we have things like drive-through and crowdfunding and all these other ways to start small and see. So I just did a video on my channel, Kevin, about conformity is not beauty. The idea that everybody's like, oh, don't do another fantasy heartbreaker. We don't need any more fantasy heartbreakers. I'm like, you can shut up, because if I want another fantasy heartbreaker, clearly there's something that's lacking, at least in my mind. And maybe I'll find a couple of other people who feel the same way. If we only had one game to play, this hobby would have died out. Now, yes, there are games that have existed for 30, 40, 50 years. But if they were the only games, they're still... your game is beautiful because you are passionate and love it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And here's the thing. So in some ways, it's easier to get out there nowadays, thanks to the internet and, like you said, crowdfunding. And I mean, heck, you can just write it and post it. And, for the cost of, putting up a website, boom, there it is. You can give it away. You can sell it, whatever you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
But in some ways, I think it's more difficult, and because there's so much out there. It's like, how do you find your way? How do you stick out above the crowd? And by the way, I don't worry about that too much, because I tend to think that, like the old saying, cream rises to the top. If you're doing something good, people will find it eventually. I mean, you got to do things to help kind of promote yourself and do conventions and whatever. But they'll find it if it's good.
Well, I mean, look at our history of Palladium Books. You showed up to conventions. Matt Ballant showed up to conventions. You had Mechanoids. He had, weapons and armor. And people took notice.
Well, he had his little weapon book, and people did take notice, and especially of his little weapon book. And I especially took notice because it probably would have ended there. He had done it was like a limited edition, like 1,000 copies or 1,500 copies, signed and numbered by Matt. And I'm the guy who sat there and went, "Hey, you don't realize you've got lightning in the bottle here. People need this, want this." Pay attention to the audience and give them what they want. And I said, what if we take your initial weapon book, which is fantastic, simple, but effective. Yeah. It wasn't a masterpiece. We didn't have top artists illustrating the damn weapons. It was Matt's little outline line drawings that we use to this day because they're clean and effective and do the job. And I said, let's combine it with armor. Let's spruce it up with some cool art. And a nice cover, and boom, and it's our first surprise hit. Yeah. And that gets back to taking risks. I saw a potential opportunity. I didn't know if it was going to sell or not. I never thought it would be a smash hit, Palladium's first mega hit, where we were going to sell 100,000 copies in 5 years. But it was. And I just kind of followed my gut. I paid attention to what the audience was responding to, and I tried to give them what they want. But before we get into that, and that's all cool, one of the things more than ever with the internet, sadly, it's very much that double-edged sword. You're always going to have people telling you your game or your writing or your music or whatever it is sucks, that you're a loser, that you're no good, that you're a dreamer and a fool. Why are you even wasting your time doing this? Why don't you get a real freaking job? You're going to hear it all the time. And then even when you come out with a masterpiece and gazillions of people like it, someone, I always say, when you stick your head above the crowd, someone is likely to throw a brick at it. Yeah. And so it doesn't matter. Someone's going to hate it. Someone's going to hate you. And you know why? Because you dared to stick your head above the crowd. And don't let that get to you.
The guy who wrote Delta Green, here's another one of those adages that just stuck with me. He's like, you can either create or you can respond to critics. And critics can devote 100% of their time to criticizing creatives. So even if you start splitting your time, you're never going to be as creative as a critic can be critical. So your choice is to respond and realize you're losing a valuable piece of yourself. I'm expanding on it a little bit. Sure. Or you can ignore them and stay focused on the thing that is your passion.
Absolutely. And look, I learned a long time ago, you can't please everyone. So I don't try. And I'm sure that'll become a meme that haters will go, see, Kevin doesn't care about the fans. So he doesn't care about us, the haters. Yeah, you're right. I don't care about the haters. I care about the people who are going to enjoy my work. Yeah. That's who I'm writing for. I'm writing for them and for myself. And try not to let the hate get to you. I mean, be realistic. If a lot of people are saying, hey, here's a problem with your game or your writing or your art, listen, judge what they're saying and weed out the crap and listen to the constructive criticism. Listen to the things that, gee, maybe they're right on this or not. And don't be upset if a family member or a friend doesn't support you. I think I've told this story before about my grandpa. So my grandfather, we're all working class, poor Detroit. My dad dropped out of school in 8th grade, much to his, I think, lifetime lament, and always had, physical labor type jobs, working in a warehouse, driving a high-low, working on the assembly line at Chrysler's in the pit, riveting in bucket seats for 8 hours a day, and coming home like a cripple because he's so sore and achy. And he would tell me, Kev, whatever you do, don't work on the line. You got to follow your dreams, Kev. And I'm like, don't worry, Dad, you got it. But my grandfather, he didn't see it that way. And even my mom and dad were worried about me getting into the entertainment arts.
Yeah.
Because how many people can make a living at it, and how many people can make a great living at it? Very, very few. And so my grandfather was always on me about, you got to have a backup plan. If it doesn't work out as an artist, because at the time my goal was to be a comic book creator, and I was really focused on the art part of it. If you can't make it as an artist, have a backup profession. Now, in his mind, that meant, plumber, carpenter, electrician, engineer, maybe even an attorney. But so one day I come over to visit my grandpa, because I visit him after church every Sunday, and they lived right next door to us. And I go in and I'm like, Grandpa, you'll be happy to know I have my backup plan. And he's like, Kevin, that's right. What is it? And I said, if I can't make it as an artist, I'll be a writer. And my grandfather was over the rail at this point, and he leaps out of his chair and leans over the kitchen table and is like, oh my God, the only thing worse than an artist is a writer. But I didn't let that dissuade me, because I knew his heart was in the right place. It's not that he thought writers and artists were worthless. He was an avid reader. He was a very smart man, self-made man. But he knew how hard it was to make it in those professions.
Yeah.
And so he was trying, perhaps misguidedly, perhaps too vehemently, trying to guide me into something that he thought would be safer and better for me. But, I couldn't listen to that. I had to follow my dream.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes those dreams are going to change, by the way. I mean, I was steadfastly dedicated on becoming a comic book artist and creator, writing comics, drawing comics. I mean, I spent 10 years doing that.
I wanted to be a professor. I wanted to teach ancient languages and myths.
Well, I was going to say, you got that Professor X thing kind of.
I know, yeah. To me, by X-Men.
But it's just, that was not my plan, and that my grandfather had in mind. So I followed my dream, and then that dream morphed from comic book creator to game designer. And it was funny, because all the things I had been studying and trying to learn as a comic book creator, storytelling, writing, the drawing, cinematicness of comic books. And I was also heavily into movies and all that, because I loved stories. I would read novels and you name it. If it's a story and had characters and story, that's what I was into. And all of that led to what I'm doing now. It all contributed to it. It all was part of the plan, if there was some cosmic plan.
Well, and we talked about it in the Ninjas and Super Spies video. There's no degree path for becoming a game designer. And while there are clear benefits to education and refining your creative talent and exposing you to new techniques, I want to be careful how I say this. What you're passionate about isn't going to change. That passion is just going to grow, and you're going to find yourself digging deeper into the things that you're passionate about.
And that's good.
Yeah.
Follow your dream wherever it's going to take you. Be flexible. Don't be rigid. I think being open-minded and experimenting in all kinds of stuff really helps you grow and form whatever you're going to end up being.
Yeah.
So did I end up, doing more than dabbling in comic books? No. But I went on to build this awesome role-playing company that so many people know. I went to see a bank guy. I'm planning my estate and stuff. And I went to see this guy, and I walked through an office, and I threw down one of my catalogs and said, here, this will help you understand what I do, the Palladium catalog. And he goes, well, I don't need to see that. I know who you are. You're kind of famous. And I'm like, what? and he thinks that he played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at some point, but he was mainly a D&D and Star Wars guy.
Man, that's awesome.
In the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
But he had heard about Palladium and knew about Palladium. And it was like, what the hell? Yep. And that's for me just following my dreams and my passion and believing in myself. So it kind of gets back to what I'm trying to say is, and it's sort of a delicate line, because you have to believe in yourself and trust in yourself and trust in your abilities. But at the same time, you have to be realistic, and you have to look at yourself from a sort of critical eye, because you need to always be fine-tuning your craft and figuring out how you can do things better and what you're doing. And
I look back on the things that I wrote even a decade ago, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, if I were going to do that again, I would do it completely differently. Like, right, they say the cycle is, for a creative, we start off with, this is awesome. This is okay. This is garbage. Wait, this is okay. Okay, this is awesome. And the problem is, a lot of us never make it out of that dip. We start really excited, and as we start putting the work in, we realize how much it's going to take. And that deters a lot of people. And so I would just say, like, if you can just get in the habit of writing a little bit a day, drawing a little bit a day, even if you're just doing it for yourself, writing a little bit of music every day, doing a little bit of poetry every day, you can carve out 15 minutes to just do a little bit. Don't set these lofty goals of, I'm going to do 1,500 words a day, or 70 lines of poetry, or I'm going to do a page a day. No, just get in the habit of doing a little a day and do it for a month and see the difference it will make. Because at the end of the day, or at the end of the month, if you've done 15 minutes a day, right, you've put in 8 hours of work over a month. You're going to be surprised at what you have written or drawn or composed or put together, because you're dedicating time.
Well, and it builds discipline. Because here's the bad news. This stuff ain't easy. I've had a couple of people from time to time who I think like any professional, just like when you watch football or ice skating or whatever the heck, it's easy to be an armchair quarterback, as they say, or coach, because it looks easy and the pros make it look easy. But when you actually have to be out there and doing it yourself, you're like, this is hard. And I've had a number of people who would come back to me and go, Kev, writing is hard. Game design is hard. And it is. And part of it is that discipline and doing it. And by the way, while 15 or 20 minutes a day is fine, if you have that passion and drive and time,
it's going to grow.
An hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours a day, sure, run with it. But, do it consistently. Look at everything. Look at your stuff hard. Mom and dad are likely to go, oh my God, you be a genius. Your best friend's going to think that too. Your girlfriend. But are you? I always say the day you think you have nothing more to learn is the day you became a hack.
Yeah. Or the day you've died. Right.
There you go.
Well, that's a really good point, Kevin, because I have a friend who's an artist, Bob. I think we chatted about Bob before. He likes to say, everything you get wrong is your style. Because you have a clear image in your head, whether that's like of how the game is going to work, or how the writing is going to be, or how the music is. And as you translate it into the physical world, everything you get wrong ends up being your style. And the thing about style is style changes, because we learn new things. We learn from our mistakes. We're exposed to new ideas. We're exposed to new techniques or instruments or palettes or devices. And so the thing is, just keep at it, because if it doesn't jive, if it doesn't work, that's fine. Put an idea in timeout if you need to, but don't stop creating. And that's the thing. That's one of the reasons I'm so attracted to the role-playing game industry, is it's one of the few industries left in which it is not a purely consumer-based industry, because everything we design in role-playing games is designed to be added to, right? The Riffs rulebook went out into the world, and then Kevin has no more say. I'm sorry to tell you this, Kevin has no more say how Riffs at the table works for you. It's your job to add to it. Now, yes, we want you to buy the complete library of Palladium books because Kevin keeps adding to it. But as soon as that book hits your table, it's now yours to add to, and your players are going to add to it. It is not a passive consuming of entertainment. It is cooperative, investive art. And that doesn't really exist anywhere else in our culture right now. Everything else is, even books, and I love books. I love Tolkien, but I consume Tolkien. I don't unless I'm running the One Ring or Middle Earth role-playing game, I don't add to Tolkien, but I can add to my own things that are inspired by him.
Exactly. No, that's a beautiful point, and I'm glad you brought it up, because that is one of the beautiful things about role-playing.
Yeah.
Is that, we hand you the framework or the blueprint, and then we say, now run with it. Create your character. Here's the world. Add to the world. Create new villains. Create new monsters. Create the adventure the players are going to go through. Players, build your character. What's the nuances? What's their goals? Yeah. Where is this going? And you're part of the story. Mm-hmm. That's why I love role playing. There's nothing like it. Never has been.
No.
It's incredible. And the other really cool thing, I think, because of that, it is even more inspiring, I think, for people to go on and be creative themselves, because they kind of have to be. It's kind of the requirement. You have to think about how so even if you're just, I can't write, I can't draw, I'm just a role player. But are you a brilliant role player? I bet you are.
Yeah.
Because you have to sit there and figure out what's going on. You have to imagine it all in your head. When there's a problem, you got to figure out how to solve it. You got to figure out strategy and tactics when you're up against an enemy. There's teamwork involved. There's nothing like role-playing games.
And think of all of the people who now are in the entertainment or writing industry who credit the fact that they started with role-playing games, and role-playing games taught them the power of creativity and imagination that then inspired them to tell their own stories and go on into these roles as, novelists or writers or directors or showrunners for TV shows and movies, or screenwriters
or actors,
video game designers, actors, right? All of these people a lot of them go, I first fell in love with the act of, the potential of storytelling and acting because of the role-playing games I played.
When I first met writer-director Rawson Marshall Thurber, he's gone on to do all kinds of really nice, fun movies, including one of the biggest movies ever done for Netflix, which was Red Notice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He, when I first met him, he was still sort of like a guy trying to break into the industry. But he was getting there. He had already done, I think, a couple of movies, including Dodgeball, which is one of my favorite freaking movies. When I found out he did Dodgeball, I'm like, Rawson, I love you, man.
Yeah, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. It's a philosophy for life.
Now, there's a great writer, right? But I meet him, and he blows me away because he tells me how it was playing my games, first Ninja Turtles and then Riffs, that made him realize that he was a storyteller, that he loved
awesome.
creating and running stories, and that he had to go on to become a filmmaker to create his own stories. And I'm like, holy shit, that's just amazing. And I've had that happen time and time again, but it's like, it's beautiful. And, you know, I hate to say it, I didn't have those grandiose motives when I wrote my games. You know, it wasn't like, this will inspire a whole new generation.
That's right.
It's like, it's going to create a great game, right, that people have fun with.
One of my friends is friends with Greg Rucka, who, you know, Batman wrote for Batman, did Lazarus, The Old Guard, which is and Heart of Stone, which were both movies, you know, on Netflix. Wrote some great novels, wrote some comics, Queen and Country. He was their game master and ran like Top Secret and ran all these other games. And my friend is like, I remember him being like just pouring his creativity into it. So when he kind of came out and was like, I'm going to be a writer, everyone is like, yeah, no, exactly. Like we're here for whatever you come up with. And I think it just keeps coming back to like, because we're covering a lot of different things about gaming and creativity and writing, you know, and art, but it comes down to, you know, my son is in my son's school. Every Wednesday afternoon, they have 3 hours set aside for the kids to do kind of whatever they want. Like they have got some structured clubs, but it's called Pursue Your Passion. And that time is set aside every week for them. Pursue Your Passion. JM, future JM, when you're editing this, that may be a great title for this episode. But do it. Like, so I was at a convention the weekend before we were recording this, which time has no meaning on YouTube. So whenever you're watching this, and someone came up to me just sight unseen and was like, hey, you know, are you JM? And I'm like, yep. And he's like, I'm running your adventure that you wrote for the Science Fiction Companion. And it's this mecha versus kaiju adventure. And I'm like, oh, that meant a lot to me. And he's like, and I'm running it twice. And the first one was amazing. And I can't wait. Thank you. It's such a good adventure. And I was like, holy crap. Like, I can't tell you what that meant to me. And if he's the only person who likes my adventure, that's fantastic, because that means one person more than the guy I wrote it for, which is me, liked that adventure. And I can promise you there's nothing like it in the world to have someone come up to you and say, hey, this thing you created, it means a lot to me.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's the good stuff. Now, getting back to your origin stories, you are probably going to be suffering for your art. You're going to be overwrought. You're going to be overthinking it. You're going to be ripping yourself a new one because it's never good enough. That's okay. That's part of the growing process as well. You're going to be full of doubt. You're going to be full of angst. You're never going to be sure if it's good enough. Just stick with it and put it out there and see where it takes you, and let it take you places. Don't lock yourself into something rigid. You know, I had opportunities to be lots of things other than what I would become, and you know, one of the early things, and in fact, I got a lesson out of it because I was a bartender, and I don't drink. So, but I learned my craft, how to make a good drink. And it was a Kyoto Steakhouse in the 1970s. And they were building a new Kyoto Steakhouse in a more upscale part of the Metro Detroit area, which meant bigger tips and things. Mm-hmm. And I'm blown away because so you have a head bartender and a second bartender. And the second bartender was going to become the head bartender at the new place. And he comes to me and says, Kevin, I want you to be my second. And I'm like, you talking to me? He's like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, me? Why would you want me? I'm not the fastest. I'm not the flashiest. And he goes, no, you're not. Because I'm like, what about this guy? Because they had some hot shot who was like out of the movie Cocktail, where you
I was just thinking, like, yeah.
And I'm a clumsy oaf, so anyone who knows me can testify to that. So you don't want me trying to spin anything, especially if there's fluid in it, because you're going to be covered in it. And there were other guys who were faster and fancier, and he's like, yeah, but he's a show off, and he doesn't care about the customer. You do. You care about the quality of the drink. You care about the quality of your work. You're dedicated to it. I know I can rely on you.
Yeah.
You make an excellent drink because you care about the customer. That's what I want. And I turned the job down because, it was like $200 or $250 a week pay. We're talking
Plus
1979.
Tips. Yeah.
That's a lot of money. Plus tips, they expected me to be making $500-$600 a week, which by today's standards, that's probably $1,500, $2,000.
Yeah.
A week, maybe more. And I turned it down because I was afraid if I took that job and got too used to the money, I wouldn't pursue my dreams. But it taught me a lesson about be conscientious, work hard, do your best, care about the customer. These are all things that would go on to be part of Palladium in the way we do things. And it also taught me this isn't your passion, Kev. So it's a dead end. Don't go there.
Yeah.
I don't care how much money it's going to make you. Is that what you want? And that's what you guys got to think about too. Is it the money? And money is good, man. Let me tell you, when Palladium's heyday, money, good, money, fun. Money helps a lot of things, open doors. But it's not everything. It's not, and for some people it may be, and that's fine. Go make gazillions of dollars. I used to always say, in fact, I lost a couple of potential employees this way, because I always said, I don't want to be the biggest. I want to be the best. And, and by that too, I don't mean like, that's right, TSR blows and, White Wolf, who cares? I make the best game. No, I mean, I want to do the best I can do. And I want to make the games that I like and I think other people would enjoy. So it wasn't an ego thing. It was just, I just want to create worlds and games and that I think are really good to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And that's what I went out and did.
I think that's a great place to end it, because just keep refining your passion. And maybe you're the next Palladium books. Maybe you refine it for your group of friends, and that's enough. But the thing is, without passion, life can be pretty joyless. You mentioned the money thing. I just listened to an interview with a game designer, and they're like, well, why did you give up being a lawyer? He's like, I very quickly realized that being a lawyer was going to be all of my time, and it was going to be pretty lucrative. But I never heard a story of someone going, you know what, I was an artist or a cook, and I gave it all up to be a lawyer. But I heard hundreds of stories of people going, I was a lawyer, and I gave it all up to be a cook or to be an artist or to be a graphic designer, and I love what I'm doing now. And so he just walked away from it and went into something else. I'm with Kevin. Money makes things nice and easy. And there is a reason why the struggling artist is a archetype. But there's something to be said about pouring yourself into something you love and seeing what comes out the other end.
Absolutely. I always say I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I do what I love with people I love.
Yeah.
Doesn't get better than that.
Not at all.